Hi, so as Lauren introduced, I'm Lauren, and I hosted the Youth Empowerment Symposium this past spring. So as a quick overview of a bit about me, so I'm at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. I was a 2024-2025 Advanced Fellow. I'm currently a rising senior and an English and political science major. I'm also a combined degree student pursuing a Master of Public Administration with graduate certificate in nonprofit management. I work as the SmartTC student site leader at HTC through the W. Nashville Center for Civic Engagement and Public Service. And I'm also research assistant and writer with the Unit Internationale de Avocats, who focus on protecting global human rights, DEI, and child labor prevention. I'm also a school shooting survivor. So a bunch of these things are really important to how I got to the youth empowerment symposium idea. So just kind of give an overview and kind of how this idea came to fruition. So essentially, a lot of these things were impacted very heavily after the election and with the current administration. So on the policy side, I was working with immigrant communities, queer communities, working with the global community as far as international human rights, but also seeing how DEI was affected, seeing how youth were impacted, thinking about H6DC is a children's literacy nonprofit that's dedicated to just protecting and supporting children in the area and just seeing how they are being impacted, especially with a very large population of queer students, immigrant students, and students of color, as well as students who are children of government employees that are having job insecurity and job freezing. So and this was a lot just to be kind of taking in as the administration changed. And then we had started actually working with students directly. So I work direct service with H6DC students, which is on the screen right now. And they had questions, and they had a lot of really good questions about why this is happening and why things were impacting them and why adults weren't doing more and how they could do more. And a lot of frustration about being a kid and not being able to do as much as they wanted to do to make it better. So that was something that I saw, but also watching how H26 was able to support them and make sure that they had a voice and they could do something for it. So our program works to essentially help kids write creative writing stories with their own emotions, their own expression, and then we publish into books. So these kids were given a platform. And as we were writing these stories for them during spring semester, we were watching them express their thoughts this way. So much of it was just finding their power and their voice within that. So watching just the work the empowerment was doing was such just an inspiring thing for me. And then also with my own background. So I am also a product of youth empowerment. So I went through a school shooting when I was 14 back in 2018. And I, in aftermath, just had a lot of anger and frustration. And I felt a lot of things kids are feeling now as far as wanting to know what was happening and what I could do to make a difference. And the youth empowerment organizations that got to me in that time, it set me on the right track to find my voice and find a platform and advocate and be an activist and just get to where I am today. I wouldn't be here in college, here doing this program, being able to do this work without those programs. And I think that it was a full circle moment for me, but also just understanding how essential youth empowerment is for just continued growth and continued finding power now, but also finding progress later and the growth that comes with that. And then the realization that they're under fire right now. And there's a lot of programs that are struggling to find funding and struggling to find support just in the current political landscape and cultural landscape. So I started thinking and decided that we need to make an event to draw attention to these programs and also make sure that they were getting the celebration and platform they were needing. So project objectives was to emphasize the need for youth contribution and protection society, educate about proven methods of youth empowerment and why they're so necessary, as well as celebrate young leaders and compensate the organizations and empower them. So the idea was to get different organizations in the DC area together into one room, representatives, whether that be staff representatives or student volunteers or anyone that was close to the work that they were doing, to come in and talk about how they're doing it, the stories of success they found, areas of need that they needed more support, more help, action areas. Just, I know that so many of them had so much to say. I know I had so much to say, and the people I was working with had just so much to share. So thinking about making sure they had the area to talk about it and an audience to talk to about how to make it into an action plan and how to connect and network and make the change that we're needing to see. So that was kind of the original concept. So then methodology, we started with 5 organizations. So I started just narrowing down the choices to our organizations within Smart DC and Engage DC programs, which are co-curricular programs that match F3US students and student volunteers from GW with community organizations in DC. So that one, all of the programs underneath Smart and Engage had an existing relationship and connection with GW. So we decided to choose within those just to make sure to kind of build on those relationships that already existed. We decided on nonprofits dedicated to supporting youth in a variety of ways. So different target populations, different age groups, different approaches, whether that be academic approaches, providing tutoring support, or providing a third space to go to after school, or providing art support, and things that different areas and methods of connection, essentially, to show the full broad spectrum. So then from choosing organizations, we decided on HU6DC, Latin American Youth Center, and Brass Foundation, Life Peace Masterpieces, and Little Friends for Peace. So we secured one panelist, at least one panelist from each organization, and had a logos down there. And then we decided to do a pamphlet. So this is a program. I actually have one right here in front of me. So this was one of the bigger parts of our budget, was making sure that we had this. So this was actually how we got the youth voices included. So we had representatives and the staff voices on the panel. It was a little more difficult to get the kids themselves being able to be representative and have their voices be heard. So we had this an idea to make sure they had a way to have themselves be heard in the audience as well. So these have quotes from our students, have quotes from our volunteers. So it's essentially our way of crediting them. So I've got a couple favorites from here too. So one of the quotes was, "My program makes me feel proud of myself and happy," from a student age 10. "Youth empowerment is important to me because it helps me build confidence," age 16. And one of my favorites, "Kids can make power too, not just grown-ups," age 6. So this pamphlet is just full of that. And it was sort of a tangible takeaway from the event itself, so the audience members could have something to take away from them and come back to and just kind of see the impact as well as hear about it in that way. And then here was the actual symposium. So we hosted 6 panelists from 5 organizations, and another big part of our grant was providing each of them $100 compensation for their time and effort. So especially with the current situation that a lot of nonprofits are under, we didn't want to have them to come in and donate their time and money and effort without being compensated. So this was able to compensate them for their time, thank them for their efforts, and make sure they felt appreciated and celebrated in the way that we were aiming to. We presented to the audience of 30 students, staff, and public servants. We provided the printed full-color program, and it was followed by a brief reception to encourage networking, brainstorming, and support between audience members. So the actual discussion was absolutely spectacular. So we had just such an amazing conversation about the past, present, and future youth empowerment and how to continue supporting youth cross country. And there's more about that slide too. So I was able to connect numerous volunteers to our featured organizations. So the audience members were able to kind of find that inspiration and find that sense of action and how to get involved. So many people that I was talking to that's process wanted to do something and wanted to help kids in this way and make sure that they had their voice and had the area of support and encouragement they needed to grow and to succeed, but just didn't really know where to start. So this symposium essentially introduced them to 5 different incredible organizations that can show them exactly where to start and exactly how to help. So that was one of the main really wonderful takeaways there. Provided a platform and space to speakers to discuss what's the most important to them about this work and how to protect it. So that was just really special to hear about what each person was really passionate about. So we had questions that allowed them to reflect upon what their most essential nature of this work was about. And stories they could tell that just showed the successes and the stories they could tell that struggles and just the things that they've encountered and being able to talk about the things that really just made them tick, but also the stuff that they felt needed to share. So that was amazing just to give these incredible public servants an opportunity to share their experiences and their wisdom. We also identified several action areas and areas in need of support within the youth empowerment space, particularly protecting immigrant youth, queer youth, youth of color. So that was a just consistent theme throughout the symposium as far as figuring out what areas we need to focus on and what students could do, and all the audience members giving them areas to start pursuing and things to really focus on in the future that we needed to continue supporting and protecting. And also provide the platform for each organization's youth share their voices. So that was our program, which was, again, just a really fantastic way to make sure the youth themselves felt like they were able to share their thoughts on it. And then actually now we're applying to present symposium content at civic engagement and public service conferences across the DMV. So that's thanks to our incredible program manager, Lindsay Chudzik at Smart and Engage DC. So she has started coordinating with us to bring the conference and our symposium to other conferences as far as finding opportunities to apply and be able to continue sharing this content with people beyond GW, beyond our campus. So we actually had full return for all the students that were involved, and we found other students step in for staff representatives who are unable to come. So that's been just a really fantastic next step as far as watching where this can go from here and continue just showing the impact and sharing the just incredible essential nature of this work that we're doing. So, and that was just about it. So thank you so much for being here and for listening.